Good morning, good morning. How are you today? Good, good. My name is Dustin Thostenson. I'm going to be speaking on modeling better decisions today. And being that this is a conference about Agile, I think it is only fitting that I respond in a very agile manner. Skylar Watson, a good friend of mine, we've worked on this since about 2015, some of these concepts. Skylar was unable to make it today. So we pivoted, and we're splitting it up, and we're going to have some volunteers come up and do some acting, and we're going to work through some of these scenarios. Additionally, I got to be more agile this morning because I bought a brand new shirt at the airport, and I was all excited for it. And then I had a tray of mimosas spilled on me. So if you smell the alcohol on me, it's not me yet. All right, so I'm going to give the actors a moment to kind of review their scenes and get into the flow and find their essence, and I am prepared to be amazed at what comes out of this here. All right, so we got to be close here. If you are interested, I know a lot of times people are taking pictures of slides when they see something they like. I do have a QR code here, and I have shared some QR codes on tables around as well. There's some of them that are up on the wall by the doors. If you want, feel free at any time, walk over, go ahead and scan them. You'll be able to download all of the slides and additional models, which include links to learn more. So we'll get into it here. Have you ever thought about how you make decisions? Like, do you really think about what is the process you go through when making a decision? Do you like to gather a lot of information, build some spreadsheets, talk to as many people as possible? Do you let it all kind of settle in there and then maybe trust your gut? You just kind of feel what that answer is? Maybe after a while you discover that you can trust your gut, and maybe other people trust your gut as well. But then you have that scaling problem. How do I have other people make good decisions as well? How do I make sure that I am not the bottleneck, the one that everybody goes to because they trust my gut, because I can't share my gut? I'm guessing that today you've been at, well, this week, you've seen quite a few sessions, and somebody will put some words up on the screen. Bobby Woods had a lot of his hillbilly wisdom, and a lot of those statements might have really resonated with you. It felt right. And maybe some of the visuals that you saw, maybe somebody was able to put into a visual the thing that you felt, the thing that your subconscious was trying to relate to you about a relationship that your system one, your subconscious brain understood, but your cognitive system two, articulate brain could not articulate. So that's what this session is going to be about. It's going to be about exploring different models and figuring out how can we work those into our daily lives. Who's the billionaire out of Omaha again? Buffett, yeah. His right-hand man, Charlie Munger, has written books and sworn by models. What he likes to do is he studies a bunch of models, and from all different disciplines of life. So when a problem presents itself to him, he can quickly put it into some sort of context and come up with a decision on it. So those are going to be some of the things that we do. And the way that we're going to do that is not by me talking at you all day. What we're going to do is we're going to follow Skylar, and I get to play the role of Skylar. You'll know I'm Skylar when I'm looking like a doofus. Thank you, Skylar. And Skylar will be acting out with our actors common interactions that many of you probably have during a day. While Skylar is talking, you're going to see what he's thinking. You'll kind of be able to see inside of his brain during that skit, during that scene. And then afterwards, we're going to recap, quite literally. and we'll think a little bit about what's going on here. The intent of this session is not to go into all the models in depth. The intent of the session is not for me to sell an idea to you and to try to say this is the best new Agile framework. The intent of the session is just to experience how these things happen and maybe continue to explore ourselves different options. All right, so to get started, we're going to invite Cal up here, and I'm going to have to stand on this side, I think, because of the dongle. And can I get Cal to come on up? Yes, please, please. Now, the beauty of this is people next door go, how did Dustin get applause so early? I did it. There you go.
Ring. Ring. Ring.
Yeah, hello.
Dude, you up?
Of course I'm up. Why wouldn't I be up?
Hey man, we need your help. It's bad.
What's going on?
The website's down. The beer-to-beer payments are all messed up.
What changed?
Who knows? Stuff just broke. The support guys are ticked. They don't really know what to do. I don't know. It's not my job. Who do you want me to assign the JIRA ticket to? I need to get that assigned to hit the SLAs or KPIs or OKRs or whatever they're making us do now. Dwight told you what our process is, right?
Yeah. Hey, what's that dashboard look like? We sent it in Slack a couple of weeks ago. That visual dashboard.
Oh yeah. Lots of green dots, some red dots in the top right. Hurry up and get in here. Don't forget your laptop again.
Oh yeah. Hey, if you see Kay, could you also let her know that we're not going to be able to have donuts for her birthday today, and tell her that we'll get some drinks over lunch. No matter what's going to happen, I think we're going to be drinking over lunch today.
Okay.
Thanks, Cal.
Yep, cool.
All right, so let's unpack that a little bit. Wonderful job. I really do need to be close here. The camera person loves all the panning here. All right. So the very first thing that we ran into, we saw that Skylar was thinking about the Western model. It's a cultural model. I first learned about this in the Accelerate. No, this was out of the, not Accelerate, but the Phoenix Project, I believe, right? And it outlines the different types of aspects that different cultures will have. Skylar has worked at some great places where people are very highly cooperative. You know, we share risk. We have a lot of novelty being implemented. And in other companies, there's a lot of CYA. And recognizing what's going on, Skylar could hear in Cal, not my job, etc. Right? I don't want to be the messenger who's being shot. Skylar also recognized that this satir change model is in play here. This is Virginia Satir's model. She applied that in family therapy. And if you kind of follow the history of Virginia Satir's work, her work highly influenced Jerry Weinberg. We've got Esther Derby here, Don Gray. They were both students of Weinberg as well, too. Understanding where companies are during a change is very important. Because Skylar recognized the company is going through their transformation. We're at that point of resistance, and the new way of doing things isn't really working that well. It feels awkward. If you can carry through with it, the new behaviors will likely give you better performance over time. It's a change that needs to occur. But when people feel awkward, they're going to revert back to the things that they were doing before. So again, Skylar's thinking about that and saying, okay, here are some of the additional challenges that I'm facing besides having the website being down. then Skylar thought about the Eisenhower model. You know, what is important and what is urgent? That's the quick overview that he looked at his morning. He knew that he had time only to do the things which were important and urgent. He needed to get dressed. Cal reminded him to get his laptop and needed to drive to work. There were some other things that were not urgent, but still important. You know, taking a shower, eating breakfast, those things are important, but they weren't as urgent at that moment. So instead of Skylar trying to think through his whole process of the day, all the things he does, where he makes his breakfast the same way, and he grinds the beans and brings the water up to 212 degrees and grinds them in his burr grinder, and he didn't have time for that. So instead of thinking about all those things, he figured out, what do I focus on and what do I ignore? That's often a pretty common problem when people are trying to solve or make decisions. And then there's the Rumsfeld model. There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. There are known unknowns. That is to say, there are things we know we don't know. But there are also unknown unknowns, the things that we don't know we don't know. And this is the same model in another view, but the core of the idea here is Skylar is not worried about the things that he knows he knows. That's good confidence to have. The things that he knows he doesn't know are the questions that he has to find answers to. But there's some unknown unknowns going on here. And it's usually the unknown unknowns that get us. It was the unknown unknown to me that putting my bag behind my seat at breakfast today was going to cause the woman to trip and pour mimosas all over me, right? So you don't know exactly what you're looking for, but you're aware, you're looking, you're trying to identify what is that unknown unknown. All right, so now we get back into the assessment. We're going to join Skylar in the car as he drives to work and tries to figure out what's going on. This is me driving. Oh man, what is going on? There's no way that this could be happening. We had everything done right. Dwight did this. Dwight hated what we were trying to do. He always had to have things done his way. I bet you Dwight sabotaged us. He had to have. What did he do? How could he have sabotaged us? Did he get access to the repo? You know, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. I mean, we can't get anything done at this company anyways. We always run into issues. We never hit deadlines. It's just the way things are here. Whatever. I knew I shouldn't have started this thing. Oh, God. I'm so stupid, though. I thought we could make a difference. I really thought that we could take the lessons and make it better here. We're going to have to go back and do all the things the old way. We're going to have to backfill all the documentation, fill out the TPS reports. We're doing all the work. Or not. I think we got this. I trust my people. They've been owning their quality all the time. They've been thinking about these things. Yeah, we got this. All right. So this was another model that Skylar decided to use called the responsibility model by Dr. Christopher Avery. Has anybody heard of the responsibility process before? Revolutionary stuff. I've met so many other coaches and other people who have learned about this, and it's changed their life. You'll see signals with some people having the sticker on their laptop or their phone. The basic premise is a lot like the stages of grief, where we go through these different stages. Dr. Christopher Avery's field studies have shown that people have stages that they go through when they're faced with a problem, when the thing that they're trying to do is interrupted. Denial is not showing up on the screen here, I apologize, but right below blame is denial. And if anybody got to listen to Linda Rising talk, I know that she's been talking about things she's learned from a book called Thinking Fast and Slow. That's the subconscious mind. I think a lot of that stuff applies here too. Denial is the easiest thing that we could do. Just pretend the problem doesn't exist, right? Humans are lazy. We're born and manufactured to be efficient and use very little energy, so denial is easy. Blame, we get to tell ourselves stories in our head about why it is somebody else's fault. We externalize the problem, not my problem. Let me tell a story to myself about why it's somebody else's problem. Justify is another one of those external reasons not to deal with the problem. That's why these things are red. We tell ourselves stories why these things are okay, why it's acceptable. That's how it's always been. We never deliver on time. Shame and obligation are green because now you're trying to do the right thing, right? Maybe shame, you've got that imposter syndrome, you beat yourself up, you start calling yourself stupid, and you're doing the right thing but for the wrong reason. Or obligation, where you are doing it, kind of that have to, don't want to. My wife is making me go to the opera. Responsibility is about owning the moment. You are making a choice, you get to choose what you do with that situation. I can tell my wife, no, I don't want to go to the opera. And I can live with the consequences. I can choose to sleep on the couch because I laid on the couch when we bought it to make sure I could sleep on it. Or I can choose to go to the opera, not because I like the opera, but because I like making my wife happy, right? But I don't have to. I'm not doing it out of obligation. The reason this was helpful for Skylar, he knew about this model, he could see it in other people, and he started to recognize it in himself. If he drove to work and all he was thinking about was Dwight, when he showed up to work, he would be prepared to prove that bias. He would be preparing to look for Dwight and how Dwight screwed things up. Instead, he worked through the process, came to responsibility, and says, we got this. All right, so next up, we're going to have the analysis with Devin. So if Devin can show up, please. Sorry. Don't stand in front of the speaker, dummy. Yeah, here's yours. You bet. I can put a hat on here. Hey, good morning, Devin.
Morning.
So what are you seeing?
It's green, and I can't make it red. We're blind. Ops never gave us access to the logs, and nobody's around to help. I think it's just in Canada and Australia. We can't reproduce it ourselves, but Sydney was able to from her remote site.
Where's Sydney?
Australia.
So all of our code is the same. No changes have occurred, but it's acting different in production than it is locally. You know, they still make those database backups every night, and they've got it on that network share. You think you could restore that production backup locally? The credentials you need are cars1, cars1.
Is Cars1 the admin account or the password?
Yes.
Red. Whoa, it failed. Wait a minute.
Okay. Well, yeah, there we go. A little bit slow. It failed. All right. So what if we add that column?
Oh, we're missing a yeah. Sorry.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Yeah, we're missing country code, column, and pride. What?
All right. And if we add that column?
Green.
Oh.
We can't just edit DB tables and pride though, like, but I got some ideas.
All right. Thank you, Devin. This is a warm hat. All right. So there we found a couple of models. Did anybody pick out the red-green refactor model? So Devin is a great developer, and Devin has learned these practices on how to not just guess and check their work, but be very systematic about it. Devin's first instinct was to prove what was wrong. Wrote some gherkin tests, tried to reproduce the scenario locally, nothing happened. From that, Devin was able to deduct the problem is data. That's the only thing that's different. And instead of just jumping forward and trying to react to the problem and just manually update production, Devin started thinking, how can we lean into these practices more and make it better? So now that we're done with, now that we have an idea of what's going on, let's go and talk about the root cause a little bit with D. Where's D or DBA? We did have a DBA, didn't we? There you go, there you go. Thank you, sir. Hey, D, how are you? Right here.
Another day in paradise, you know. The dog, the food, that's all gone. They ate it. Truck's broken down. It's terrible. But you know me, I can't complain. I'm living the dream, just somebody else's.
I hear we have some issues, D.
We? I'm fine. You have a problem. This sounds more like a you-ish than a me-ish. I'm still going on vacation today, dude.
All right. Do you know what might have changed?
No clue. I have no idea. I was just doing the deployment for the wine team and just cleaning some stuff up. I don't know why people have such a hard time following the processes. If the devs did their job, we wouldn't have all these bugs when we deploy. Don't get me started on their documentation.
We're missing a column, D. Our database is missing a column in prod.
Sounds like you better create a ticket, because it's not my problem. I just cleaned everything up that's out there. Can you believe some idiot have columns full of nulls? What's the point in wasting that space? Sorry. Anyway, don't forget to connect to the VPN when creating the rally ticket for support, and then returning to the IBM tool in Internet Explorer to add a link to the rally ticket before getting off the VPN, since we're migrating to Jira Cloud. And don't forget to log out too afterwards.
D, we were thinking about some other options. Last week you were really helpful for us in figuring out that performance issue. You put some indexes in the table and that solved everything. We loved using you like that. We were wondering if maybe we could start to script out some of these changes and put it in our pipeline. So that way you don't have to be so busy anymore and manually modify all the tables in production. What do you think? That'd be a cool idea?
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea, but that's not our process. I'm the one responsible, and absolutely not. I'm not getting a call on my vacation for your screw up.
All right, Dee. All right, have a great vacation. Thank you. Oh. Nobody told me I had the caps backwards. We got to redo it. Yes, you got it. All right, remember our old friend Rumsfeld here? We found the unknown unknown. The manual change, made with very good intentions, was the one thing that we didn't know happened, and Dee confirmed that, yes, he was out into the database, saw something he didn't like, so he deleted it because why not? It didn't follow the conventions. Skylar was also thinking about Conway's model. Has anybody else heard of Conway's? I think it's a requirement to have at least one Conway model in a talk per day here. Thank you. So Conway's model dictates that the technical solutions created by a company reflects the organization, reflects the communication paths of that company. And couple of fun examples there, but the way that organizations are created are often going to impact the type of architecture you have, and they're going to have a very big impact on the communication, collaboration, coordination costs that teams will encounter. Some optimizations in a small area don't always work out in a big area, all those little systems. Team Topologies, if you're interested, is a wonderful book about that, where they talk about a reverse Conway maneuver, where you take a look at what is the goal that we're trying to reach, and then how can we back our org structure into that. So again, Skylar's seeing this Conway model in place. He's recognizing why things are that way. And just a few more things that as Skylar goes through his career is probably going to try to help the organization with. All right, now we're going to have our proposal with Max. Yeah. Hey, Max, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, my niece went to Fort Benning for basic training. Were you there? What was your story?
Oh, yeah. I went there. I was on Inmarsat training. Yeah, it was really intense trying to learn some old technology stacks for stuff that should have been deprecated 40 years ago.
And how long were you in the military, Max?
I was in there for about 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm sure they had things pretty well organized there, right?
Don't you know it?
So when you came here, it wasn't too big of a change, huh?
Things were a little bit more chaotic than I'm used to seeing.
All right. Well, Max, I'm hoping that you can help us. You're familiar with our production issue. We've got a couple things that I'd like to get some air cover from you on.
Why do you need me? Dwight informed me we're preparing to roll back your last release.
That is the normal process. I was hoping that we could try something a little bit different. One of our strengths here is we've got a lot of really good people, and they really care about the customers, and the customers can see that, and they're good at their job, but we can't seem to get on top of that quality issue. That's still been a big weakness for us. So the quality issues are starting to impact our customers, and we're starting to see that impact our revenue as well too. Some of the new people here have worked at other spots, and they've seen what's going on in the industry. There's some opportunities out there. We think with some of the automation and some of the testing tools that we could probably be able to reinforce that purpose, autonomy, mastery. And unfortunately, one of the threats for us, I think, is if we can't provide a good environment for our developers, we're not going to be able to retain them, because this is how they want to work. They don't like these calls anymore. We want to get that solid foundation and just fix it once. And if you see over here, we've got a pipeline set up, and we've been doing all the automation. And every time that something goes wrong, the automation will tell us immediately where the problem is. So we're willing to take on that responsibility, but we'd like to lean into that a little bit more and probably try to remove some of those well-intentioned manual mistakes out of there. I think for you, the CEO has talked about those new pillars for the corporate plan. We've got empowerment and automation. This could be a great story for you to tell as well about how you're supporting that. I just need the air cover with Dwight and Dee.
Well, looks like you got a solid plan, and it's all yours. Hoorah.
Hey. I love the hoorah. So we've seen Skylar work through the day and use models to solve his problems, but now he's trying to find a way to use the models to help other people. He knew that Max has talked about SWOT before, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is an old model from MBA classes. It's been around for a while. But what Skylar did is because he heard Max talk about this, he talked in terms that Max would understand. As soon as he switched over to SWAT, Max understood where he was going, he knew what to focus in on, it was easier. Sometimes developers and managers have a hard time communicating with each other because they're talking in different languages. So Skylar was able to kind of pay attention to that square peg, square hole concept and be able to communicate more effectively with Max to get the help that he needed from Max. And additionally, the old Rube Goldberg model. Rube Goldberg was a cartoonist in the early 1900s that would make unnecessarily complex scenarios here. This was the automatic napkin tool. With each swipe of the spoon, the napkin would eventually clean your face for you. When you see scenarios in organizations, oftentimes they are quite complex. And as Jerry Weinberg had said, things are the way they are because they got that way. When you're in close, every little step might make sense, but sometimes it's helpful to pull back, understand the big picture and not just the individual steps, and find a better way to approach it. All right. So now we've got Dwight. Postmortem with Dwight. All right, so there you have it. We walked through all the steps of the production outage here. We talked about, in a non-blame manner, we talked about what happened, when it happened, and what we did to resolve it. I also shared with you all the steps that we did to implement some new technology to automate these issues so they just won't happen again. So we're leaning into our automation a little bit more. We're trying to embrace a lot of that empowerment. And all in all, I think that even though it was unfortunate for this event to happen, to have the outage, the decisions that we make, I think, have really helped out the company. All these little 1% changes that we're making, we're starting to see them compound. So I'll open it up to the floor. What questions do you have? Dwight, do you have any questions? Yep.
Oh. As an assistant regional manager.
Assistant to the regional manager.
Well, I think it's the best for my team to lead the way on these initiatives. We're going to be pioneers in the best practices and be efficient and have more quality in our quality. So it'll be one of the highest quality with the best practices.
And efficient?
Absolutely. Jason, I want you to clone these tools and get them working for our project. It's one of your top priorities now.
Okay, wow, great. You know, and there's a lot of things that we've done, but this journey has taken us some time, Dwight. So maybe what we'll try to do is just focus on a small aspect of that. Maybe we'll just try to focus on your path to production first, and then we can build up onto some of the other tools that we have. We'll amplify that feedback, do some more experimentation, but Jason, can you join us on Wednesday after stand-up? We're going to focus on getting your path to production figured out, and I think that by the end of the month, we should be able to have all your delivery to prod done in an automated manner. Does that work for you?
Excellent. And as assistant regional manager.
Assistant to the regional manager.
Make sure to include me on that meeting invite so I'm kept abreast of the developer operations.
Perfect, perfect. We're glad to have you on board, Dwight. We really want to make sure this is idiot-proof.
Good luck with that.
You could just leave it. You can leave it, yeah. Thank you. All right. So what just happened there? What are we doing on time here? All right. So we got into the 3 ways there. And I think that this is a very important model for people to think about when it comes to DevOps. I'm seeing a head nod over there. There's so much out there. There's so much out there, and people want to do all of it. But the truth is, it doesn't matter what kind of alerting you have on your public websites. If you find out that there's a problem, but you have a 3-week lead time to do a deployment, the alerting does you no good. But if you can focus on the simple things and make sure that you can repeatedly get your code to production without a lot of manual steps, if you can believe in it, you can do it quicker. And then, when you start finding out there's issues, good news, it doesn't take that long to get a fix out. So now instead of optimizing for avoiding getting problems to production, we optimize to respond to them. Mean time between failures versus mean time to resolution. Skylar, again, for all the different things that you have to think about, being able to focus on one thing was really important to make sure that we could get some success and not get overwhelmed and quit. Skylar's also used to being in a lot of meetings where people talk and talk and talk, and all the hippos get their voices heard, but nothing really comes out of it. So when Skylar was taking on Jason, he wanted to make sure that he was being very clear about what we're going to do, when we're going to do it. So we didn't just say, yeah, we'll kind of get around to it when things calm down, and then nothing would ever get done. At that moment, Skylar says, we're meeting on Wednesday, we'll get this path to production done, automated, at the end of the month. So having those crisp and clear goals help people move forward. And he just keeps thinking about that SMART acronym. All right, final scene here. We've got our system improvements with Jason. Hey, Jason.
Jason?
Jason?
Yeah, I've given up on correcting Dwight. Anyway, I saw these problems on my last company, and they had some tools that solve this, but they are expensive. I've been working on some code generations in JavaScript with a customized state machine working off my fork Linux on AWS. This is totally what we need to do. Half of it is 80% done. It can even transpile to Rust or Go. I can't remember. I've got tons of great ideas. We could save a few grand a year with this.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jason. You know, we do have some money. Max had given us money already to spend on some tools. And you haven't been with us that long, but people love the work that you're doing. You're having a big impact on our customers. We've got Oktoberfest coming up here, and I think there's still a couple of features that you're working on that we really want to get in for Oktoberfest. We're hoping that's going to triple revenue. And then we'll have some time before the end of the year to maybe lean in with some of those areas. I know you mentioned before you wanted to do some open source work. You think it'd be okay if we just use some of the tools on the market and got these things fixed first, and then maybe later on you can come back and we can save money later on or reallocate the money that we spent on the licensing?
Yeah, chill. So where do we start?
Thank you. So this was another kind of pivot where Skylar started thinking about a lot of models, right? He knew that Jason was a relatively new developer, new to the concepts of DevOps, and had maybe a lot more confidence than was probably warranted. Dunning-Kruger is an example where sometimes when people get a little bit of knowledge on something, they have a high level of confidence. I've got a friend who was doing a podcast for a while, and when I showed him that, he goes, oh yeah, this is perfect, I'm putting that on my podcast. I don't think he picked up how meta that was. But Skylar didn't come out to Jason and say, hey, you're acting a little Dunning-Kruger right now, all right, because that's not going to be helpful. Skylar was also thinking too about Skylar's own journey, his, the Dreyfus model of skill acquisition, the genesis of the expert, and recognizing that Jason was also going through that just a little bit earlier in their journey. And it's good, but we make mistakes. And sometimes when you make the wrong kind of mistakes, if you go down a rabbit hole and spend a lot of time on something that doesn't work, your reputation suffers a little bit. So Skylar started thinking about what decisions can be made to help JSON avoid some of those kind of career-limiting moves. A few months earlier, they had done DISC assessments. So Skylar was aware of the personality type for JSON, recognized that a lot of enthusiasms, we're going to shoot a rubber band over the moon. Beautiful, we need those people, but you also have to offset that a little bit with what are the things that we can really accomplish to make sure that we're successful. And finally, Skylar was going through that buy versus build. There's some really cool things that we could have done to build our own pipeline. That sounds like fun. But is that what the company is good for? Like, are we trying to build tools? Is that our core capability? Is that what we're going to make money at in the marketplace? Does it give us a competitive advantage, having better pipeline tools, writing our own? If it doesn't, you might as well buy something that's off the shelf. But if you are building those tools, yeah, that's obviously a case where you want to have the best tools on the marketplace to sell. And I know that there's a lot of things like Kubernetes. Everybody's got to talk about Kubernetes once, right? So you can have Kubernetes, which is developed by Google, and you could say, yeah, but they're a search engine. Well, maybe Kubernetes was critical for them because that was offering them a competitive advantage. But does that mean that your company needs to build the same type of tool? It's worth exploring and having some honest discussions around that. And very comparable to the build and buy models is the cost-benefit analysis. How much are we going to spend? What do we get out of it? Companies are always trying to work through those things as well. Sometimes the quantification of that can help make a decision easier. How are we doing on time? How much? Okay, so we got another half hour? Good. All right, so what just happened here? Ooh, that is warm. So we got to watch Skylar go through his day, and we got to see what was inside of his mind. And if you knew my friend Skylar, that would probably not be something you would normally want to do, but we're in make-believe land now, so we can do that. So we got to watch him make these models and figure out how to apply them quickly. And Skylar's been trying to collect these models because figuring out those types of shortcuts gives him the confidence to make good decisions quickly. Now there's also that saying, all models are good, all models are wrong, but some are useful. So even though I am talking about shortcuts to thinking here, and I'm presenting you with opportunities to continue to go out there and learn, I also want it to be clear that we can't just follow these models blindly. Right? That's where you get the cargo cult. That's where you have people going through all the Agile ceremonies and pointing their points a certain way and writing every story the same way, because that's just the process. And why do we do it? Well, because that's what we've always done. You get the cargo cult mentality going on. Not helpful. So even though you can use the models quickly, you still have to recognize when they're applicable and when they might not be. Take a look at a couple of metaphors here. Argument is war. If you're arguing with somebody, the intent is to win, right? You gotta win. If we're arguing, we're fighting. If we're fighting, I'm gonna win. Okay. Time is money, right? Time and money, both limited resources, both extremely valuable. All of you are spending your time here today. That's very valuable for you. I'm not working, I'm not billing, I'm an independent developer. So this costs me money, but the value here is so much more. So if you're in a moment with a person, it's valuable. And if I'm having an argument with a person, that means I'm sharing time with them. So they start to conflict a little bit, don't they? We might be having an argument, but the topic is important enough to the other person where they're there with me. So maybe instead of me thinking I have to beat that person to win because argument is war and I need to win, maybe I can also balance it with the time is money concept and recognize that even though I don't like their ideas, I'm going to listen to them because they're listening to my ideas as well. Just different ways to look at that same situation. One of the things that I find interesting as well too is I've started to embrace models. You know, every time I read a book, I try to capture that model and work it into my day. You start to see patterns. Patterns emerge over time. Again, these models are kind of reflections of the feelings that we have, the relationships that we've built over time. As I've read more books, you find different models are showing the same concept in slightly different terms. Buy versus build, cost benefit, pretty closely related. Like I mentioned with Linda Rising, she had her talk, she mentioned things from the book Thinking Fast and Slow, which also overlaps a lot of the things in the book Switch, right? A lot of these concepts overlap, they're just articulated differently. So the more that you recognize them, the more that you can start seeing meta patterns between them. And the more that you learn the models, the more that you can share those with other people. And now it's not like giving somebody money where you don't have it. Now it's something that both of you have. And for people I work with, we will talk about models in shorthand so we can quickly get a lot of context about a situation. We can talk about Westrums so we understand what is the culture like. Some solutions might work in some companies, some solutions won't. And if you're not taking those things into consideration, you're going to be very disappointed. Both parties are going to be very unhappy. So with that, we've got decisions to make. Can somebody tell me what do the colors mean again? Who remembers the colors? So red is to stay in the matrix and just enjoy the reality, and then blue is to see how far that rabbit hole goes. Does that sound right, or is it the other way? All right, let's vote. I forgot already myself too. The first time we gave this, we had a bowl of M&Ms out there, but we can't do that anymore, so. So yeah, so that is your choice, right? It's your choice to go out there and ask yourself, what are the models that I want to continue to learn? What are the things that I want to do to continue to grow my own mind and help the people around me? And if you are interested in learning more, we've got the handout here. And again, I do have those strewn throughout the QR codes, and we've got the slides there as well. And with that, I will open up for questions. I think the first question I have is, how awesome were our volunteers? Yeah. Thank you. And the second question, I'm curious, were there any models that you may have learned for the first time that have interested you today? Correct, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, the Dreyfus model of skill acquisition, and that's another one where it's also represented like Shuha Ri and some other models as well. Looking for them. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So what questions do people have? All right, I do have one more ask. Sorry. Just so I can send a picture back to my family, could I get everybody to stand up and give me some thumbs down and put really angry faces so I can tell my wife how bad I bombed? I love it. All right, well, thank you very much for attending. We'll give you some extra time. I've got business cards up here. Thank you.